you today? Okay, so my eyes are bloodshot. It was a late track meet last night. Crazy. But she did well. So I'm going to put on my glasses. You know, I can't see up close. If you need to read with your glasses, when you're highlighting your book and reading along with me, please get your glasses. Or if you happen to be listening to this because you find it more interesting to listen to me reading, then just get set because we're going to start immediately. Chapter 6. Maturity. Acknowledging the stones that are guiding me. That's the chapter title. Okay, so my leave from school was over and it was time to finish my second year at FIDM. It was a 2-year college, so I wanted to finish up, get my associate's degree. I wish I was getting a master's. Get my associate's degree and move on with my life. I would get my bachelor's degree later. I was still excited to get back to studying and working locally. CSRG had placed me in a local temp claims position, and I enjoyed being back in Los Angeles. Jan and I had a lot to catch up on. She would go to work at 7 and get off at 7 a.m. I would meet her at the gym and pick her up from work in her car so we could go get our nails done. She inspired me to knock off some weight and tone up because her body was so toned. She was small, tiny, compact, but the girl was toned, abs for days. The two of us together at the gym or when we went out dancing would always get attention. I was 5'8" and the color of milk chocolate. And Jan was 4'11" and a beautiful tone equal to dark chocolate. She was 14 years older than me, but we both looked 5 to 10 years younger than we were. It was fun hanging with Jan. She was so supportive, loving, and funny that we were closer than I was with any friends my own age. Jan and I would hit the clubs every now and then. Lil J's nightclub and the Century Club were the local clubs we would go to for dancing. One Saturday, we decided to go to a new club on Santa Monica Boulevard. Jan rarely had Saturday off. As an RN in the ER, it was a busy work day. So we wanted to do something fun. The commercials on the radio said the club was supposed to have a classy atmosphere and great music. My friend Veronica from school lived in Pasadena, and she wanted to come with us since the club was 18 and over, and she was only 19. So my 21-year-old clubs were off limits. I told Jan to finish getting dressed and I would go get Veronica. When I picked up Veronica, she asked me to stop at the store around the corner from her house. I went inside with her to buy some gum and breath mints. She surprised me by going to the cooler with the alcohol in it. I went over to her and I asked her what she was doing. I want to get something to drink now so I don't have to pay those expensive drinks at the club, she said as she grabbed a bottle of a drink called Cisco. Yeah, for you OGs out there, you know Cisco will get you hyped up, right? I whispered to her, "Girl, I'm not buying that for you. I didn't even know you drink. I can't drop you off at your house drunk. I just met your mom." She laughed. "I can buy it here. I won't get drunk." She carried the bottle up to the counter. I expected the cashier to card her and snatch the bottle from her. Instead, he rang it up, took her money, and gave her the change. He charged me for my gum and mints, then took my money and gave me my change. He said, "Have a nice night, ladies." We said goodbye and got into the car. Veronica asked me if I wanted some of her drink. I said, "No thanks." I told her I do not drink when I go dancing. I just want to dance and enjoy a natural high. Veronica said she usually gets the little small bottle, but that she rarely gets a buzz with the small bottle. She drank all the way to Jan's house. Jan was ready when we got over there, so we drove to the club. It was approximately 40 minutes from Veronica's neighborhood liquor store to Jan's, then to the nightclub. In that 40 minutes, Veronica was wasted. "Veronica, are you okay?" I asked her. She was leaning in the back seat. "Yeah, I just need some air. It is hot in here," she said. "Girl, you better not get sick in my car," Jan told her. We pulled into the nightclub parking lot. We all got out, and Veronica was not able to stand up straight. We actually had to help her up the stairs to the entrance. I asked the bouncer if we have to leave, can we get back in, and he said yes. I told Jan we may need to take her home, then come back. Jan agreed. Veronica said she was going to be okay. We sat down at the table near the front door. After a few minutes, Jan and I were asked to dance by two guys that walked in the door together. I looked at Veronica, and she waved us on as if to say she was fine. We danced to one song, and the DJ was mixing in another one when a guy tapped me on my shoulder. He said, "Your friend just ran to the bathroom, and she didn't look good." I told Jan what I was told, and we left our dance partners to check on Veronica. I went into the restroom looking for Veronica's distinctive style. Her crimped black hair stacked one on one side, and those 6-inch long curved fingernails, they remind me of the movie Edward Scissorhands, painted to match her clothing. I did not see her standing at the sink. I did not see her waiting in line to use one of the stalls. I did see her feet sticking out from the stall at the end. Are you kidding me? I thought to myself. Jan and I went down there and slowly opened the stall door. Veronica was on the floor with her cute hair, the right side of her face, and her long fingernails of her left hand lying in vomit. She had vomited, then passed out. I asked Jan to get me a bunch of paper towels, some dry and some wet. While Jan went to get the towels, I woke Veronica up. "Veronica! Veronica! Wake up!" It didn't take much, but she was definitely drunk. "Girl, wake up. Do you see where you are? I thought you said you drink all the time. You need to get up so we can clean you up and take you home." I told her that while I helped her sit up. Jan handed me some wet paper towels so that I could wipe her face, hair, and nails. Jan wasn't RN, so seeing bodily fluids was no big deal to her. It grossed me out. I'm serious, it grossed me out. But she was my friend, so I was mainly concerned about her being okay. We cleaned her up and helped her to the sink where she could look at herself in the mirror and try to get herself together. She was wasted. She could not walk without our help. When she was clean of the vomit, we helped her out of the club, down the stairs, into Jan's car. As we seatbelted her into her seat, Jan said, "Veronica, don't you throw up in my car." She said, "I won't," as she laid her head down and went to sleep. "I will never go anywhere with you again," I said, and it was a promise that I kept. After we dropped her at home, Jan and I laughed as we drove back to the club and danced until it closed. The experience of that evening brought Jan and I even closer together. God helped me by placing stones of love, compassion, togetherness, and wisdom on my path that night while building a loving relationship between my Aunt Jan and I. One afternoon, a few weeks after the Veronica night out, I had just left Jan's house and was driving my Lynx down the hill. I turned left at the stop sign, continued to the stoplight, and was waiting at the major intersection of Verdugo and Eagle Rock Boulevard, at the bottom of the hill, waiting for the light to change. The green light flashed for me to go, and I needed to go straight through the intersection towards the on-ramp for the freeway. I made it across 5 lanes of traffic, and bam! My car was hit by on the passenger side by someone who had run the red light. My Lynx spun around on 2 wheels. I gripped the wheel tightly and screamed, "Oh my God!" The car stopped and landed on all 4 wheels. I could see smoke coming from the engine, but I was frozen. The mechanic from the gas station on the corner came rushing to my door. "Are you all right? Come on, get out. Can you get out?" he asked me. "Oh my God, oh my God," was all I could cry. Yeah, see, I'm still nervous to this day when I read this. Oh my God. He pried my fingers from the steering wheel and helped me out of the car, which was blocking the intersection. Cars were slowly going around us. As I was being helped from the vehicle, the other car was slowly moving away. It was smoking and barely moving. The mechanic that was helping me yelled to his coworker, "Go stop that car!" The coworker jumped in his car. When he said that, I realized that the driver was not pulling out of the intersection to wait for the police. He was attempting to leave the scene. The coworker drove the half block and blocked the slow-moving vehicle. The coworker got out and was yelling at the driver. The driver was not going to get far anyway, not with the damage to his tire in the front end. I sat down on the curb just as a police car with sirens and lights blaring pulled over to the getaway car. The police officer told everyone to get out of that vehicle. There were 4 young Latino men that walked to the curb. The officer talked to the driver for several minutes, then they walked towards me. The officer asked if I needed an ambulance, and I said no. I told him I was just scared and nervous. The officer said, "The driver tells me that he hit you because you ran a red light." "I did not run a red light," I said as I looked at the driver. He was saying rojo and nodding. I know very little Spanish, but I know rojo meant red in Spanish. "I did not run a red light," I said again. I was about to explain when the officer interrupted me. "It's okay, miss. I know you did not run a red light." I asked him what lane he was in, and he told the truth. I asked him what direction you were heading in, and he told the truth. There is no way that you can cross 5 lanes of cross traffic on this busy street to get to the lane where he hit you. He had to have run the red light, the officer said. He was obviously used to drivers lying to avoid trouble. He will be cited for driving without a license, running a red light, and trying to leave the scene of an accident. And I hate to tell you that he has no insurance, the officer said remorsefully and angrily. I understand. I gave the officer my license and insurance card. I used the gas station phone to have Kelly come down and get me. I got back to the house and was still shaken up. In the days to come, I found out that due to my late payment of insurance that month, that I was not covered for the repairs for my vehicle either. What I tell you, obedience. My lack of obedience on my insurance was affected by his lack of obedience on his driving, and so it was a mess for me either way. So my car sat at the repair shop for months. My occasional disobedience with bill paying was still something that I was asking God to help me overcome. God was placing the positive stones of obedience and responsibility on my path to help guide me to responsible money management, but I must have been stepping over those stones. I had to rely on public transportation. That was funny, stepping over those stones. I was. Disobedience. Okay, LA was good for my confidence though. When I needed my spirits picked up, I could count on the great male citizens of Los Angeles to make me feel better. Whether I was walking to my classes at Fillham on 7th Street in the downtown area, taking the bus, or shopping for yardage in the Fashion District fabric stores, the guys would look, whistle, or speak. I was approached and whistled at daily in Los Angeles. I was not interested in dating at the time, but it still made me feel pretty good, sexy, and desirable. I was 27 years old and felt like I was 21. It was June of 1991, and I was graduating with honors, cum laude with 3.77 GPA from the Fashion Institute of Design and Merchandising with an AA degree in fashion design. Wow, I did it. Fillham came through on its educational commitment to me. I knew how to drape, make patterns, how to design a clothing line, how to forecast the season's new styles and colors, how to write a business plan, and so much more. My mom couldn't make it down from Oregon, but Kelly, Aunt Jan, Uncle Glenn, and my grandmother, Mama Ethel, came to the Greek Theater to watch me walk across the stage and receive my degree. Well, received the empty, padded red folder for my degree, which would be mailed to me. I was very happy with my education and ready to pay off my student loans. I knew one more bill would be difficult, but I would not default on my loans. I did not know what I would do with my designing skills, but I did not want to work as a design assistant. I wanted to design and sell my own fashion designs, not someone else's. I was proud of myself. I was surprised when my girlfriend Gloria called me to ask if I would make her wedding dress. She lived in the Bay Area, and her boyfriend Steve had proposed. They decided to get married outdoors in a beautiful arboretum in the South Bay. I told her I had not done a wedding dress before, but if she trusted me, I would design exactly what she wanted and throw my style into it. I was deeply touched by her trust of my ability to make her wedding dress. I told her we would need to get together so that I could measure her and we could shop for fabrics. She came down to Los Angeles and we did just that. By the end of the day, we knew the dress would be beautiful. A long-sleeved, form-fitting, off-white satin dress with beaded lace overlay and a long, ruffled satin underskirt that she could remove after the ceremony for dancing mobility. Gloria mentioned to me that one of our friends doubted my abilities, since Carol just graduated from school. But Gloria reminded her that I had been making clothes since my mother taught me to sew as a child, and designed several of the outfits I wore when we went out dancing, several of which she had drooled over. Gloria was more eager than I was to prove our friend wrong. After I made the pattern, I sent Gloria a sample of the dress I made in muslin. It's a little light cloth, very inexpensive. Gloria tried it on and told me exactly where it was ill-fitting. I asked her to have someone mark the areas on the sample, then mail it back to me. I called her to tell her I received the sample back, and I was so happy that she did exactly as I asked. Gloria said no problem, and then she asked me to be a bridesmaid. I was honored and said yes. She asked if I wanted to do all of the dresses for the bridesmaids. I asked her how many were there, thinking maybe 1 or 2 I might do it. And she said, there will be between 10 and 12. I laughed and said, no thanks. A true friend understands no and still loves you. One more try on the sample and I was ready to make the actual dress. I continued to pray that God would bless my hands. The beaded lace she selected was $30 per yard, and the expense of the other fabrics made for an expensive wedding dress. The last thing I wanted was to actually alter the dress. The plan was for me to bring the dress up 2 days before the wedding, when I came up, so I did. We got together for her to try the dress. It fit like a glove, just like she likes it. If I could have made it of a beaded satin spandex, that would have been Gloria's first choice. But she was very happy with the fit and the look of the dress. She looked gorgeous. I did it. My hands made her beautiful dress. The wedding day was a dream. Gloria arrived in a horse-drawn carriage. Steve looked at her with wide eyes of adoration. The ceremony was joy-filled and everyone was ready to party. I took Gloria to the side of the reception area and helped her step out of the removable underskirt train. When she returned with a knee-length version of her wedding dress, mouths dropped, and sounds of oohs and ah could be heard. My job was done. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you. We partied that night, then I flew home the next day. I had been home for a few months, and I had increased my part-time hours to full-time. Working full-time again was better for managing my bills, but it was tiring. I decided to go out one night, so I borrowed Jen's car to go to a club in Pasadena on Colorado Boulevard. It's where a lot of the nightlife is. I would regularly go out alone. I always parked in an attended parking lot near the venue or club. I made sure it was well lit and attended. I went into the club and could see it was crowded. I talked to a few people at the club. I would always talk to other ladies sitting at the bar or in the ladies' room as well as men. It was fun to get to know about people. I was about to leave and this guy asked if he could talk to me a minute. I said, sure. He introduced himself. He said his name was Kelvin and he lived in Pasadena. I told him my name and said that I needed to leave. We exchanged phone numbers and I promised to touch base. Kelvin called me the next day. He invited me to watch him play flag football. I said, sure. I went a few times. I love sports, so it was fun to cheer him on. We began dating seriously. It moved fast. As usual. He took me to meet his family in Pasadena. He didn't live too far from my Uncle Greg and my Aunt Robin, who also live in Pasadena. I met Kelvin's mom, Claudette, one Sunday afternoon. She had made a marvelous dinner after she got home from church. She was so sweet and funny. She invited me to go to church with her one day. And to this day, I love making baked macaroni and cheese the way she makes baked mac and cheese. You can actually find it on my website under recipes. It's a small little church, but we love the Lord, Claudette said. I prefer small churches. I feel lost in a big church, I explained to her. I grew up in smaller churches that are on fire for the Lord. I would love to come with you. I thanked her for the invitation. I did accept the invitation too. I went to church with Claudette and her nieces. It was very spiritual. My soul sang out with the songs and my heart was touched by the pastor's message. My spirit was ignited. I had not been attending church regularly, even though I stayed close to Christ in prayer. My spirit was dancing joyously over the reunion. Several of the parishioners greeted me and asked me to come again. I accepted their invitations. Although Kelvin did not attend, I attended regularly. I asked Kelvin to attend, but he chose not to go. I was on fire for Christ. I volunteered to help the kids with fun projects like painting t-shirts with our favorite scriptures on them. I went with them to church field trips for fun. I was born again and was going to get baptized for my love of Jesus Christ. I was excited about the baptism. I knew it was a full dunk baptism, but I still curled my hair that Sunday. I knew I would be dressed in a baptismal robe, but I still wore my favorite Sunday dress. I was excited. The pastor gave a very inspirational message about trusting in the Lord. He said it is your responsibility to trust in the Lord and listen to the Holy Spirit. If you are going to give something to someone, whether you are giving tithes to the church or helping someone on the street with some money, whoa, I was going to get my phone and quiet it down, but they hung up on me. Okay, so he said if you are going to give something to someone, whether you are giving tithes to the church or helping someone on the street with some money, do it and trust the Lord will do with it what is necessary. When you give, you are being obedient to the Lord and listening to the Holy Spirit. You have pleased the Lord. You do not question what will be done with that money. If the person that you gave the money to doesn't do what they are supposed to do with the money, then that is between them and God. They will have to answer for their disobedience. I have always remembered that sermon given on that day, on the day I was baptized. After the sermon, I changed into the baptismal gown and went to the baptismal pool. I stepped up to the church elder and he guided me into the pool. The pastor said, "In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit." He leaned me backwards in the water until it covered my head, then he lifted me back up. It was a spiritual, uplifting, and renewing experience. I was committed to walk even closer to Christ. I walked out of the baptismal pool and went to change. I did not know until later, when I was looking at pictures taken by Claudette, that the wet baptismal gown was see-through when wet. and me without my undies. Oops. That is hilarious. I will actually post that picture on my website. It is so funny. I'll put it there for a minimal time. I think it's hilarious. Who's that? Oh, that's my husband. Give me a kiss. He's at the dog groomer.
Oh.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. That's my husband. Wait. My chapter readings. Is that all you need, or you need me? Okay. He thinks I'm really talking to someone right now. Well, you're going to be listening to this and watching this as though I'm talking to you, right? Okay. The conflict between me walking closer to Christ, but my boyfriend not walking with Christ at all, without him walking with Christ at all, became more intense. Kelvin had been in jail before. He didn't tell me that until after we started dating seriously, for fear that I would not date him. I did stay with him, but it didn't last long. On that note, when people who have been incarcerated are ashamed of what they've done, they hide it. So they try not to tell employers because they're fearful that they won't get the job. They don't tell the people that they want to date for fear that the person won't want to date them. But what they're not paying attention to is that employers and others, people they might want to date or just be friends with, do not like liars. They don't want to be lied to. I'll respect you more for the fact that you've gone to jail and are trying to repent and make yourself better and live a better life than I will for you trying to hide things from me. That's a no-no. As you can see, every time I mention in this book, you know Carol does not like lies. So, as I said, I did not stay with him. Oh, I did stay with him, but it didn't last long. On Valentine's Day of 1992, I had been planning a nice dinner, and Kelvin had hinted about a romantic evening. I called him several times all day long with no answer and no callbacks. By 7 p.m., I was pissed. I called his mom's house, but no one had heard from him. When I called his mom again at 9:30, I was told that he was in jail. He had asked them not to tell me because he thought he would be released. Well, happy Valentine's Day to me. I learned a lot about the penal system in the months following Kelvin's arrest. An education I could have done without. His story was that he was driving past the police car in Pasadena, and the officer said he turned around because the headlight on Kelvin's car was out. He asked Kelvin if he could search the vehicle. I did not know that a person on probation could not deny an officer the search of his vehicle. News to me. So he said yes. The officer found marijuana in the vehicle. Breaking probation and possession of marijuana are 2 crimes, so he was arrested. How much do you like your freedom if you are on probation or parole and breaking the law? Not much, I guess. But I also think it gave me an opportunity to get closer to Christ. My mother and I believe that if there is something, someone, or some action that is keeping you from walking with Christ or moving closer to Christ, it will be removed. While I tried to be there for Kelvin, I continued to pray, go to church, and try to live my life in an upstanding manner. It is possible that because my relationship with Kelvin was deterring me from my walk, he was distanced from me. I have never gone to visit anyone in jail before I met Kelvin. I never intended to, but Claudette said that Kelvin really wanted to see me. I could deny him, but she was like a mom to me, and I could not deny her. My first visit to jail, actually, the Pitcher's Honor Ranch. I don't know why they call it Honor Ranch. Everybody up in there is lacking honor. The Pitcher's Honor Ranch. My first visit to jail was an eye-opening, depressing experience. Let me paint the picture for you. I had to drive 30 minutes from Los Angeles to Santa Clarita. It's north of Los Angeles, near Magic Mountain. The Honor Ranch was in a rural area. The parking lot was a dusty, dirty area. It was hot, and there were a lot of visitors, over 100. First, you have to fill out a piece of paper to tell them who you want to see and give them your name and driver's license number. They have signs posted everywhere that advise visitors of the do's and don'ts of visitation. No felons can visit inmates, which rules out a lot of friends and family members. It really does. No firearms or knives. I wonder why. And it's a shame that they would have to post that on a sign. You're visiting a jail. You will be searched. There were a lot more listed, but those are the major no-nos. After they check you out, then you wait on a row of wooden benches until a bus comes to drive you the 5 miles to the facility. Now, these buses are like school buses, painted white, so it's not like a comfy Greyhound bus. There are tons of people that visit. Women all dressed up with their high heels and makeup on, cute dresses, going to see their man. Lots of children and older visitors that were probably parents and grandparents. Everyone gets on the buses until every seat is occupied. You get off the buses at whichever facility your inmate is located, then get in line for another security check. The security check consisted of walking through a security screening system, a deputy looking in all purses or bags, and a security wand being passed over your body. After they check you out, you go into a waiting room until they call your name. They take you into a room that looks similar to the visitation areas that are seen on television jails. There is a row of metal seats on the visitor side and a row on the inmate side with a 2-inch thick plexiglass window between you. There are phones on each side of the window for each person to use and communicate with the inmate. It is very depressing to talk to someone by phone when they are right in front of you, looking at you through a thick glass window. The visitors get a mere 30 minutes, then the inmates get taken back to their cells, and you get to ride the hot, dusty bus to freedom. Visiting a prisoner is like being incarcerated yourself. I vowed not to go back, but I broke my promise to myself 2 more times. I was trying to hang in there and be a devoted girlfriend, but it was not for me. While he was incarcerated, Kelvin told me that he was actually married. Not again. And it was a marriage of convenience. But he was worried about telling me for fear that I would leave him. Now, how many times has he lied to me for fear that I would not date him, for fear that I would leave him? Give me a break. Any excuse to lie. Well, after I got over my anger, I told him I could help him file for the divorce from the inside, if that was what he wanted. I always felt that if you can pay someone to do it, that means you can probably do it yourself. Told you my mama told me that. I did it as promised. I helped him get the papers and file with the courthouse. I even took the papers and served them directly to her. All of the events had started dissipating my love for Kelvin. So I told him I was breaking up with him. He was a gentleman and understood. My goodness, what is it with me and men? After all the drama with Kelvin and drawing closer to God through Claudette's outreach, I was ready to live on my own again. Los Angeles County was a big area. During the last year of working in the San Fernando Valley, I had begun to like the area. I decided to find my first apartment in the Valley, as it was called by the locals. My budget was tight, and the options in my price range were not the high-end apartment complexes. It was the older, smaller units with off-street parking. The apartment I decided on was situated on a cul-de-sac, and upstairs, as a single female, I always rented upstairs units that had no walls or trees or fences for intruders to access my unit. It was closer to my temp job in Sherman Oaks, which allowed me to sleep a little longer in the mornings. I was excited to be on my own again, but sad that I was not going to see Kelly and Jan almost daily. I moved into my apartment in a day since I didn't really have a lot of stuff. I had borrowed my Uncle Glenn's little car to help me move in since my Lynx was still sitting in an auto repair shop. Uncle Glenn actually allowed me to continue using his car because he was borrowing a friend's vehicle that was out of town. I was living in my apartment for a month when I went out to the street to get in the car, and it was gone. I walked to the back of the complex to see if I had parked it in the back, but had forgotten. Nope, it was stolen. Oh my goodness, what is it with me and cars? I called Unc to let him know that the car was stolen. Uncle Glenn and I have always been close. He loves family and would do anything he can for his nieces and nephews. I think he and I are close because he is the youngest of my uncles, and we relate to a lot of things that happen in our lives. Needless to say, he was not angry. Monk, don't feel bad. It's not your fault. Monk is short for monkey. Monkey is a nickname I was given as a child, but shed by me as a teenager. It was actually given to me by my Aunt Lucretia. My mom is the oldest of 6 kids, and Glenn's the youngest. And my Aunt Lucretia used to babysit me, so I would steal bananas from the fruit department when she passed the cart past them by, and take them out of my brother's lunches when she made lunch in the morning, so hence the name Monkey. Uncle Glenn is the only person who still calls me by my nickname, for whom I actually respond. I made a police report. It was only 4 days later when I received a call from the police department stating that they had located the vehicle in Barstow. It was not stripped, but may not run, they said. I asked Kelly to drive me up there. It was fine. It just needed some gas. Then I drove it home and gave it back to Uncle Glenn. 2 weeks later, I started looking for a different apartment in a better neighborhood. Through those trials, tribulations, and experiences, stones of responsibility, devotion, strength, maturity, determination, accomplishment, and spirituality were laid on my path and leading me to my happily ever after. By July of 1992, I was in my new apartment. It was a 2-bedroom upstairs unit on Cortine Place in Valley Village, California. It was an older complex designed with the carports underneath. I liked it because I did not have a neighbor below me. There was a swimming pool in the complex as well. I enjoyed decorating my apartment with my eclectic and unique style. I learned my style from my mom. Reuse items, buy from garage sales and secondhand stores, and sew my soft design items like my curtains, pillows, and other decorations. I put sheer curtains around my bed hung up from ceiling hooks. It was a wispy, romantic tint around my bed. I put a black carpet on my bathroom floor to match my black, white, and red accessories. I enjoyed the compliments from visitors regarding my decorating style. If someone now, after my years of being a realtor, told me they had carpet in their bathroom, I would be so grossed out. As a mom, you become a germaphobe. As a realtor, you become practical. If water overflows in the tub or the toilet, it's into that carpet, and now it's on the floor, and if you don't see it, it could be causing problems underneath the carpet. So definitely do not put carpets in your bathroom. If you just have that little carpet cutout thing around the toilet, that's fine, but wash it frequently, please, because you know men drip. Yeah, men, you know you drip too. Even Kelvin had an opportunity to see my place. No, it wasn't over. When he received work release, I picked him up so that we could visit. We discussed the possibility of reuniting, but things just didn't seem the same to me. It didn't matter because within 3 weeks of being in work release, Kelvin broke probation again when they found marijuana in his sock. Are you kidding me? Oh my goodness, man. Is it really worth it? I smoked marijuana too in my 20s, but I finally stopped and allowed my mind to get motivated for living. My instincts were correct to leave Kelvin to his own life and move on with mine. My home was peaceful. It was my peaceful retreat, and it was needed daily after I returned home from work. I was still working for CSRG at a Blue Cross assignment in Woodland Hills. I loved the assignment. The Blue Cross complex was amazing. Blue Cross Blue Shield really does have some amazing business office complexes. It had a cafeteria on site for the employees, including the temps. The food was delicious and inexpensive. You could get bacon and eggs, huge pancakes for $2.50, or a sandwich with a bowl of soup for $3. I tried not to eat there every day for fear of gaining weight. I worked on the 4th floor, so I would take the stairs up and down each day for exercise. The BC employees and the other temps were fun to work with and talk to every day. The summer of 1993 was a single Valley girl's dream. I had a great job, no man trouble, and in Southern California, it was sunny with a lot of things to do. One day, Kelly called me to tell me that Kim, one of his friends that I knew, Arabian Prince to you, formerly with the rap group NWA, was shooting a video for his album. Uncle Glenn was going to assist with the video. He would be at the taping and do the editing. He asked if I wanted to be an extra. It was a no-pay gig. Jan would be going too. I said, heck yeah. All I needed was a swimsuit and a sexy outfit. Funny, that was 3/4 of my closet back then. That would be easy, I said. Instead, I designed a clingy, long black and white striped back-out dress especially for the occasion. Say that 3 times fast. Instead, I designed a clingy, long, black and white striped back-out dress especially for the occasion. I was Hollywood ready. Jan and I had a blast. We were probably the oldest women there, but we were definitely in the running as cutest and sexiest. You know, like I said, we still looked about 10 years younger, so we looked like the true age group that was there, 20s, mid to late 20s. The song was called Hose to Bozak. I had no idea what Bozak was, but after hearing the song over and over all day, I knew every word of the lyrics. We laughed and danced and took pictures with Arabian Prince. You'll see those in here, or on my website if you want it in color. He was always so cool and laid back, but he had a smile that melted the ladies' hearts. The video shoot was exhilarating. I had fun, but it was time to get back to my job, which was to pay the bills. I got a kick out of watching the completed music video with Unc. He was so damn talented. Well, he is so damn talented. He used special effects to morph Arabian into a Rottweiler. I had not seen that done before. I saw Jan and myself dancing around like party girls. No one would guess she was an RN and I was an insurance claims examiner. We looked like just regular old video heifers or video hoes or video girls or whatever you want to call us, but we looked like we were there for that party specifically, with nothing else we do except look cute and party. It made me giggle. Very funny. It was a badass video. When I started the Blue Cross assignment, I was taking the bus from Valley Village to Woodland Hills each day since my car was still not working. The bus ride was an hour and 10 minutes each way. In the morning, it was crowded but peaceful because most people were getting a little more sleep before work. But the afternoon was hot, sticky, and packed. It was a funky bus ride home. The hard-working men were standing up in the aisle, holding on to the rails above their head, while the funk from their armpits filled the hot air. I couldn't wait to get the car fixed. My pay was good and I was able to save enough to get the links fixed after 3 weeks. I was happy when the links was running again. Now, granted, let me go back to that The men were standing because they were all so nice that if a woman got on the bus, they would get out of their seat. But them standing and holding on to that arm rail, you know, when you're on the bus and doing this and your face is right about here somewhere, woo! That construction funk is powerful. Anyway, in the fall of 1993, I called my mom, who was still in Beaverton, Oregon, to say hello, and she sounded stressed out. She said my sister Sabbath, who was 14 at the time, was doing her own thing. My mom would ask her to do something and she would get smart. Sabbath was hanging out with kids on the other side of town, so she would break her curfew often in order to hang out. If she smarts off to me one more time, I'm going to knock her head off. My mom said it with so much conviction that I believed it would happen. I hadn't heard my mom that angry in a long time. Mom, why don't you send her down here to me? She can stay here and go to school, I offered, with concern for my little sister's health and my mother's sanity and felony-free record. I can't do that to you, Carol. She is my child, not yours. My mom sounded sad. She is my little sister. I have 2 bedrooms, and she is old enough to walk to and from school on her own. It won't change my life negatively. She and I need to get to know each other, I said convincingly. Okay, if you think you really want to do it, my mom conceded. We worked together to get Sabbath a flight down to Los Angeles International Airport. 2 weeks later, my little sister was my new roommate. I knew the relationship with my sister would add stones of support, love, wisdom, respect, and spirituality on my path on behalf of Sabbath and me. We set up her bedroom and bought her things that she needed for school. I enrolled her in Walter Reed Junior High School, and we went shopping for school clothes in the garment district. We talked about things that sisters talk about: good friends, jealous females, cute boys, and how to be a strong, confident young lady. Sabbath obviously needed a change from Beaverton. After the first couple of weeks, she seemed to smile more and laugh a lot. She would stay in the bathroom mirror until she felt she looked totally together. She was a beauty, so it didn't take much, but she wanted perfection. And she is still like that to this day. I don't know how long she stays in the mirror, but when she's done, she's looking hot. She made friends with some of the kids that lived in our complex and nearby. She would walk to and from school with her friends. We went to the same church as some of them too, First Baptist Church of North Hollywood. Sabbath was a typical teenager, so she would talk on the phone daily. She only broke curfew once. We had to talk about rules and respecting them. If you don't respect them, then you have to suffer the consequences. She said she understood. Everything was going well for a couple of months until I received a phone call at work. It was from the North Hollywood Police Department. It seemed Sabbath had been picked up with several other girls. The group of girls Sabbath was with was at the apartment of another girl, threatening to beat her up. The parents called the police. Sabbath had to be released to a parent or guardian. That's me. So I left work to go deal with some BS. You know I was not happy. When I got to the police station, Sabbath was sitting in the hallway looking extremely remorseful. I decided to make her regret the experience as much as possible in hopes that it would be the last time that my little sister was picked up by the police. I walked up to her and said, "I cannot believe this." Then I walked up to the officer that was standing near the girls. He directed me to his office and asked Sabbath to come inside. He explained why they picked her up. Sabbath interjected that she was not going to fight anyone, but the girl in her group that wanted to fight asked everyone else to come along. I looked at her and said, "If you were at home and a group of girls came to our house, including one that you know wants to fight you, what would you think?" Sabbath said in a low voice and her head slightly down, that all the girls were there to fight me. Oh, that all the girls were there to help her. Exactly. the officer and I said at the same time. The officer explained that Sabbath seemed like a nice girl, and he had never seen her in the police department before. He advised her that she could be going to juvenile hall instead of home, but he wanted to give her a chance since it was her first time in trouble. He looked at me and said, if you run into any more trouble out of Sabbath, you just call me, and we can book her into juvenile hall to see whether she likes the hall better than home. Sabbath looked scared. I looked at her while I responded to the officer and said, I truly hope that will not be the case, but I will keep it in mind. I don't have the time or the desire to come back down here to jail. I turned back to the officer to look at the officer. Next time I will not come, and you could just book her to the hall. Then I asked Sabbath, will there be a next time? With tears trickling down her face, she said, no. I stood up, took the officer's card, shook his hand, and told Sabbath, let's go. I lectured her for the full 10 minutes home. She was on restriction and was not allowed to go anywhere but school and not allowed to use a telephone. I told her if there was another time that she would go to juvie, and then, I said if there was another time that she would go to juvie and then back to Beaverton. She said she understood and she was sorry. There was no more trouble from Sabbath, but she did end up going back to Beaverton a couple months later. In December, Sabbath and I felt a small tremor from an earthquake, which reportedly measured 3.0. It scared her so much, she said she wanted to go home to be with Mom. She didn't want to be in California to feel a big quake. I told her there was no guarantee that a big quake wouldn't come, but it might be years before she felt another one. She didn't care. Sabbath wanted to go back to Beaverton. So I bought her a ticket, and she left during Christmas break before January 1st of 1994. I always wondered if my little sister had a sixth sense, because on January the 17th, 1994, at 4:30 a.m., I was awakened by the shaking of my bed and the building, plus the noise of glass breaking. Oh God, an earthquake. I jumped out of my bed and stood in my bedroom door frame. It was a major earthquake that seemed to last forever. My biceps were hitting the door frame as the building continued to shake. Bam, bam. I kept saying my little prayer. Please, Lord, keep me safe. Please, Lord, keep me safe. It stopped for a couple of minutes. Then another jolt came and stopped. All the power was off, and I could hear car alarms. Car alarms! Oh no! I had to find some shoes in the dark and ran downstairs to move my car from underneath the building. Funny, I didn't think about it, but if the building fell on my car, I would have been inside the building. When I started down the stairs, I saw almost all of my neighbors also standing outside in their pajamas or heading downstairs to move their cars from underneath the building. It was very dark outside. It was obvious that the effects of the earthquake were being felt by the whole neighborhood. I moved my car onto the street, then went back upstairs to look at the damage. When I walked in my front door, the moonlight cast shadows around my living room. I could see better with the door open, so I kept it that way. I could see that my fish tank had crashed when it hit the floor. I didn't even recall hearing it. My bookcase did not fall, but almost all of the books did. I went into the kitchen and was surprised to see that only one cabinet was open with half of its contents on the floor. Those old cabinets that are hard to open were actually an asset this time. I was scared and my arms hurt, but I was not crying. I went into my bedroom and put on some sweatpants. There were a couple of tremors that shook the apartment again. My stomach jumped each time and I couldn't stand it, so I went outside. My stomach is jumping right now. I can still remember that quake. It was devastating. Downstairs in the center of the driveway, several neighbors were standing or sitting on lawn chairs around a barbecue pit that was being used like a fire pit. I went downstairs to join them. Everyone talked about their earthquake experience and the fear of going back inside their apartments. We talked until the sun came up. Someone yelled from upstairs that the phones were back on. I decided that I had to go upstairs to call my family. I called my mom to let her know that I was okay. I told her I was glad that Sabbath had gone home because it was a very bad earthquake and I was scared, so I am sure that Sabbath would have been traumatized. I told her I was going to call Jen and Kelly to see how they were, and I might go stay with them. I called Jen next. Kelly sounded sleepy when he answered their phone and said that they had slept through it. I could believe it because they both were very sound sleepers. I told him I was scared to stay in my apartment and that we were still feeling aftershocks. He said that he saw that on the news that the earthquake was centered in Northridge, which was only 13 miles away from Valley Village. That is why my area felt it so strongly. I told him I was going to stay with them. I was going to stay at Jen's until the tremors stopped coming so frequently. After I hung up, I packed a few things. After I hung up, I packed a few things. My apartment was a mess, but I couldn't begin to clean up for fear of another strong aftershock. I took my bag, started to walk to the car for my vehicle, then remembered it was on the street. I walked to my car on the street, and I noticed that several of the buildings on our street had cracks or missing chunks of stucco, which was lying on the ground. I jumped in my car and drove to Jan's house in Eagle Rock. I stayed at Jan's for a few days. I had fun staying with Jan and Kelly. Kelly is like a little brother and always cracking jokes and telling me about his crazy friends. But I missed being in my own apartment. After 3 days, I was ready to go home. When I opened my front door, it smelled like rancid fish. The carpet was still damp with fish tank water. Yuck! I put my bag down, put a dab of perfume under my nose, and started cleaning. Picking up books and putting them back on the bookshelves. Picking up broken glass and putting it in a paper bag to be thrown out. And putting all of my items that were not broken back where they belonged was how I spent the day. It took all day long to get my apartment in reasonable order. I had to rent a carpet cleaner the next day to clean the stinky carpet, but I found out my damages were minimal compared to a lot of people. I was lucky. The days following the Northridge earthquake of 1994, as it had been dubbed by the news media, were surreal and eye-opening. Several older buildings like the one I lived in had collapsed during the earthquake. People were killed or trapped inside of the buildings. Several freeways had buckled or broken, one of them causing a police officer to crash and die. I was so sad for his family. I realized I was blessed to be alive, but I prayed for the injured and the dead. I cannot begin to name all of the stepping stones that were laid on my path during that traumatic time, but the stepping stones that the Lord laid in front of me always started with spirituality, followed by support, strength, and wisdom, which helped fortify me and build my character and my future. I considered moving out of my older apartment building into a newer building, but the city inspectors that came to inspect the apartment said it was very sound. So I stayed. I was glad that I did not have to move because I liked the location. I called my mom to update her about the earthquake rebuilding and how I was doing. She was glad and I was not as nervous or scared and getting on with my life. My mom said she had car trouble and was taking the bus to work and dealing with getting around Portland and Beaverton on public transportation. She said public transportation was great in the city, but it took forever getting into Beaverton. I told her she could have my car if she wanted it. I took the bus to work anyway and could easily get around by walking and on the bus in North Hollywood. She tried to protest, but I was already telling her how we could do the exchange. Mom and Sabbath could take the bus or train down to Oakland from Beaverton. I would meet them in Oakland, and we could have my brother Wesley look over the vehicle before she drove it back to Beaverton. He is an awesome mechanic, and I was sure it needed a tune-up. My mom finally agreed. So the following weekend, I got in my powder blue Lynx for the last long trip we would be making together up Interstate 5. I guess the Lynx wanted to prolong our time together because as I was 2 miles from the last gas station stop on Interstate 5, before I get on the freeway through Stockton headed to Oakland, I heard a pop and I could feel the car slowing down. The motor stopped, and I was coasting. So I immediately looked in my rearview mirror to make sure it was clear before I moved to the right lane, then onto the right shoulder. Oh my goodness, what is it with me and cars? I got out of my car to see if I was hit or something. Oh, if I was hit or if I hit something. I could not see anything. I opened up the hood and could not see anything out of the ordinary. It was hot and I had to wait for help. I did not want to walk to the next gas station, so I waited. It was only 10 minutes when I saw a California Highway Patrol vehicle pull up beside my car. The officer got out and asked me what was wrong. I told him what happened, and he said he could push me to the gas station a couple of exits up. Then I could call for help or call family. I got back in my Lynx, and the officer pulled up to my car until I could feel him tap my bumper. Wow, he was good. It really was a light tap. I put on my flashers as the officer did on his car and rolled the shoulder all the way up the exit as he had advised me to do. I cautiously stopped and made turns as needed, with the officer gently pushing me to safety. I pulled into the gas station, parked my car, and got out. I thanked the officer, then ran to the bathroom. Boy, did I have to pee. After I came out of the bathroom, I went to a payphone to call my mom. I told my mom what happened, and she told me to tell my brother Gilbert so she could put him on the phone. I said, I do not know what is wrong with it, but it stopped, and it will not run. Can you and Wesley come out here? Gilbert said, yes, sister. We will be out there in an hour or so. I sat in the Lynx and people watched while I waited for my brothers. 2.5 hours later, the Lynx and my brothers were in Oakland. Oh, 2.5 hours later, me, the Lynx, and my brothers were in Oakland, and Wesley was checking out the car to see what was wrong. I have 2 awesome brothers, and upon my request, they are always there to help. After Wesley diagnosed the car, he told me that the timing belt broke, which will not be too expensive or difficult to repair. We all thank God that it happened to me when it did, and that I was safely able to make it to the side of the road. The thought of it having happened after my mom started to drive back to Beaverton sent a shiver up my spine. The next day, Mom and Sabbath headed back to Beaverton in the Lynx, and I flew home to Los Angeles. Without the Lynx, I definitely got more exercise. I not only rode the bus to and from work in Woodland Hills, but I also would walk to the stores around North Hollywood. One Saturday morning, I decided to walk to the shopping center on Laurel Canyon and have lunch after window shopping. Before I left my apartment, I washed, blow-dried, and hot curled my hair. I was looking cute. I always try to make sure I look cute when I left the house. At least then I did. Now I just throw on some sweats and snatch my hair back, which I should still try to look cute for my hubby and my baby so she can see what it looks like. Anyway, before I left my apartment, I washed, blow-dried, and hot curled my hair. It was going to be a 90-degree day, so I threw on some white shorts and a yellow t-shirt. I started walking from my apartment around 11 a.m. There wasn't much shade on the sidewalk, but I tried to stay in it as much as I possibly could. By the time I got to the shopping plaza at noon, the hot sun was beating down on me and I was starving. It had just dawned on me that I had not eaten breakfast. Instead of window shopping first, I knew I needed to stop, get something to eat, and something cool to drink. I went into an Italian deli. I was feeling low on energy. It reminded me of the time I passed out at Jan's house. I ordered lemonade and some lasagna. I paid for my order and turned to go sit down on the bar stools. As I walked past the glass display case, I felt that I was passing out. I said, "Oh, Jesus," in a whisper, and flopped straight down to the floor, Indian style. The cook must have seen me fall because he came out from behind the counter and asked me if I was okay. I said, "Please help me up." He held his arm out for me to pull myself up, then walked to the stool. I laid my head down on the cool countertop to help me cool my head down. He asked, "Are you okay? Do you need me to call you an ambulance?" "I just need my drink to cool me off and something to eat," I said. "Okay, here you go," as he took the drink off the counter and handed me my lemonade. "Would you like me to drive you home?" The lady behind the counter, who I assumed was his wife, said, "Yes, honey, drive her home. You will be okay. He will drive you home." She bagged my lunch and handed it to him as I held my lemonade to my forehead. I barely remember telling the cook directions to my apartment and going home. But I do remember how frightened I was when I thought I was going to fall into the glass display case, and calling on the name of Jesus changed my direction. I will never forget it. It was more than just a stone of spirituality laid on my path. That stone was probably inscribed, "Call on Jesus." It wasn't the first time, and wouldn't be the last time, that calling on the name of the Lord saved my life. My normal routine was to go to work, exercise, and watch TV in the evenings. On the weekends, I would occasionally go dancing. One night I went to LA and danced the night away. When I was about to leave, this guy asked me to dance. I said, "Sure," and walked to the dance floor. The dance floor is always a good place to talk and get to know the other person. It is like the craze of speed dating. It gives the dance partners several minutes to introduce themselves, find out some important facts about each other, see each other's dance skills, and determine whether you should get to know them before continuing to dance when the next song starts, or dropkick that person by thanking them at the end of the song and walking off the dance floor. My version of speed dating at the time was with this guy named Tony, and he had some kind of accent from a different part of the USA, either a southern twang or a Midwest slang, but it wasn't California smooth. He said he was a boxer and did his training in South Central. He said he was from Cleveland. Bingo! I guessed right. I told him my info and we continued dancing. He asked if I would like to come watch him spar one day. I said, "Sure." The song stopped, so we walked off the dance floor to exchange information. The club was closing, so we said goodnight and we agreed to see each other soon. I met up with Tony at the boxing gym. You know what? Only a couple more pages. Okay, I started to pause it and start a new one. Hang in there with me. I met up with Tony at the boxing gym on Broadway in South Central. It looked just like boxing gyms I had seen on television. It was my first time in a real one. It smelled of sweat and men's cologne. Kind of nice sometimes. He jumped in the ring and I watched him spar. It was interesting because he was training for a fight. It looked like the other guy was taking all the hits and being a little gentle with the punches he was throwing. It makes sense. The boxer with a fight pending wouldn't want to get knocked out by his sparring partner. I laughed at the thought of it. Tony and I went to lunch. He said he had 6 children. Yes. And was not married to the mother of his children. I should have run. Not walked out of the restaurant. Run. He said they were not together any longer, but he supported his kids and would go back regularly to see them. We started dating, and I became the ringside cheerleader. He had fights all over California. We drove down to Chula Vista for him to fight, and occasionally we would go to the Forum Fight Night to watch fights together. He would tell me details of the fighters and point out some fighters that he had fought previously. Wow, a man who was open, honest, and cared to show me his life. Surprise! He was another selfish, lying brother. I found out that he was married. She was pregnant with child number 7. So he was going home at Christmas, but he would be back after New Year's Day. As if I cared about seeing him again. I told him off, told him not to call me again, and don't visit me. I stopped answering his calls. I told my girlfriend Carla about him, and she agreed that he was trifling, and I should steer clear of him. Trifling. Definition. Low down, dirty, no good, shameful, bothersome, not worth your time. So if someone ever says trifling, hopefully they won't be saying it about you, but you'll at least know what they mean. Carla was a good friend. She was there when I wanted to have fun and go out, but she was also there when I needed to talk or cry. She used to live in the Bay Area as well. We met through a mutual Bay Area friend that brought her down to LA for one of my parties. I liked her from the moment we met. It was in God's plan because she became a close friend, and the person that introduced us was not in my life any longer. I didn't have a lot of female friends, but the ones that I did have were jewels. I did not know it, but my neighbor, Valerie, had twin daughters, Shara and Tara, who were in their 20s. Shara and her daughters, Crystal and Sean, had come to visit from Texas, and she decided to stay in California. Shara and I also became good friends. Shara was a young mother and determined to raise her daughters by herself. She just needed to stay with her mother a while to get herself together. I asked her to come out dancing one night, and she did. Her little one, Shawnee, didn't want her to leave, so she cried, but Shara pulled herself away. We had a ball. Her Texas twang made me laugh, and my bold attitude towards the fellas made her mouth drop open, which also made me laugh. We always giggled when we hung out. Once or twice a month, I would go to church at North Hollywood Baptist Church. I personally didn't see a problem with going out, dancing, and also loving the Lord. Shara also went to the same church. Music at church moved me spiritually, and the music at the nightclubs was relaxing and enjoying and touched my tribal soul. Occasionally, we would go out dancing on Saturday, then go to church early Sunday to sing praises to God. We were young Christians who loved Christ and were proud of it. With my girls, Carla and Shara and Jan, ready to go dance at the drop of a hat, there was usually someone with whom to go party. Whenever family or friends came down, they would ask where the party spots were in Los Angeles. I had visits from Gloria, my cousin Dee Dee, and my cousin Angie. My cousin Angie, we called each other's twin because we look a lot alike, came down to visit and stayed at Jan's. She is my Uncle Glenn's daughter, so we have always been close. She and I had not gone out since we were teenagers, hanging out on Cannon Street in Oakland. I talked her into going to a nightclub with me. I wore one of my new creations, the long jersey knit dress with the black and white horizontal stripes that I wore in the video the previous year. I thought I looked very sexy in that dress. When we got to the club, heads were turning, male and female. So I guess I was right. Sexy. Angie and I were sitting at a table talking when Angie said she noticed a guy looking at me. Yes, that happened a lot in my younger days. The slender one that looks like El DeBarge? I asked and giggled. If you don't know who El DeBarge is, Google his name. Yummy. Angie said, yeah, he and his friend were looking our way. I looked at Angie and said, girl, lookers. Don't mean anything if that's the askers that let me do that again because it's important. I looked at Angie and said, girl, lookers don't mean anything. It's the askers that I appreciate. We laughed. What's so funny, someone with a masculine voice said into my ear. I looked around to see the El DeBarge look-alike that Angie had pointed out. I will give you the Cliff Notes version of our meeting, relationship, and goodbye. His name was Willie, and this is one of the names that has been changed to protect the innocent. His name wasn't Willie, but his name was Willie. He was a grocery store clerk. He was a sensitive and genuinely nice guy. He really was. He had 2 daughters by a childhood sweetheart. They were on-again, off-again fiancés, currently in the off-again stage. He felt that it was off for good. Yep, that's what they all say. His friend at the bar was Kevin. They raced motorcycles and were friends to the end. Willie and I danced and exchanged numbers. We dated while he dealt with baby mama drama. We would plan a day out or a dinner in, and he would have to cancel because of some problem with his daughters or drama with their mother. He even came to my house early one morning after an altercation with the baby mama after she had smashed the windshield on his BMW. His mother wanted him to reconcile with his fiancée for the sake of the children. I usually agree with mothers, but I never agree with a couple staying together for the sake of the children. Children can tell when their parents do not love or like each other, and it makes life worse for the children. Anyway, he was a caring father, and he would do anything for his daughters. In the end, we knew that he would always be connected to the mother of his daughters, and he did not want to disappoint his mother. So we said our goodbyes of a mutually enjoyable relationship, but hello to a friendship. The end of those cliff notes. The stones laid on my path with any friendship include trust, maturity, support, and wisdom. Those stones need to affect both friends for the relationship to endure. And if you add love, laughter, and spirituality, you may find a soulmate or a few best friends for life. I promised myself that I would try to avoid taking baggage into my marriage whenever that happened. I couldn't judge my husband based on my past relationships with men. Oh boy, how hard would that be? I asked God to help me with that when the time came. And that's the end of chapter 6. That was a long chapter, but you see how it all kind of worked together, so I couldn't break it up. There was nowhere to break that up. So I hope you were able to either listen to it all the way through or stop it and come back to it. Now these are pictures from the chapter 6, and there's pictures of me and my baby sister when she stayed with me. Look at her looking all fly. And me and Veronica. Veronica's in the back with the medallion on it. That's my girl Veronica. On the website, you can see her in color, and you can actually see those nails I was talking about. And then me and my Uncle Glenn, me graduating from college. Oh, the dress I made Gloria is in here. And me, Jan, and Kelly, and one of his friends. And then me, Jan, and Arabian Prince from the day of his video shoot. So yeah, you need to go to my webpage so you can see those in color, and you can blow them up. I think you can enlarge it. I don't know. I'll have to double check. So I hope to see you at chapter 7. Bye-bye.